Good morning and welcome. I want to thank all of you for coming. Really appreciate your time this morning and your interest in our project and what we've been involved in. And I want to just give you a brief little intro here. There are two projects that we have going on in Kenya. One of them is the business of the Church of God Restored, our little independent church that's doing its work there. The second project is the Rescue Project. And the Rescue Project has been something that God inspired us to do. You're going to hear the presentation about the Rescue Project from someone who's been an integral part of it, really a critical partner in it, and that is my son, Ben. And so at this time, I'll introduce him to present it to you. Ben Cobb.
I just want to give you guys a general idea of what I'm going to kind of walk through. I'm going to walk through just the general background of how this story kind of kicked off since it's so recent. I'll go into the progress that we've made as a company, and I want to obviously comment on the future of where we're going. But first off, I can honestly say that it's been a privilege to be a part of this work, to have worked with these kids. And I can honestly say that it has been a life-changing experience. So at the end, just to give you guys an idea, we want to reserve some time to hear from you, kind of have some questions and answers. I know we've already commented and spoken with some people who have some really good experience in that area and some interesting things to add. So the general background, 2007, 2008, there was a great deal of violence that displaced approximately 250,000 people. There was a political shift, and it affected two main areas, Kisumu and Nairobi. These are the two main cities. Approximately 1,500 people were displaced, or 1,500 people were murdered at this time, causing countless orphans and children to be without their parents and their homes. So one corner of Kenya contains that city, Ogimbo, where the orphans that we found and were working with were collected off the street. So one interesting thing that we found in Western Kenya was that organizations who come in to try to help, try to do a lot of good work, are not getting all the way down. They have a trickle-down concept, and you could see on the streets there would be shanty. This was the main city, by the way. So we haven't actually gotten out to Ogimbo, what you're looking at right now. This is in Nairobi, correct, Ed?
Correct.
In Western Kenya, in Ogimbo, you would see shanty, shack, shanty, and then you would see a big house that would be the official's house. And sometimes, and what we heard from the locals was this particular official was in charge of helping some particular area. His house looked like a two-story American-sized house with a DirecTV satellite on top, which was very deterrent for us, but also very inspiring because we have that direct line of connection to not have to trickle down to anything. We have that direct line to get in there and actually have that direct connection to change lives directly. So, given this setting of great turmoil, there was a man by the name of Richard that had reached out to my father. And he had collected 9 orphans off the street, trying to care for them. He was also interested in the church piece. Reached out to my dad. This started a conversation over the next several months of, hey, we want help. We want to get a part of your church. We want help with the kids. We want to learn, we want to grow. And so obviously it came to the point where it was either make it or break it. Either my father was going to make the trip and go, or cut bait and say, you know what, I'm not going to go. So he prayed, he decided to go in faith. In 2008, he made the trip over to Kenya with one friend. Obviously, since we're standing here, the trip was a success. It was real, it was valid. The gentleman that he's standing next to is Richard. And they met at the YMCA in Kenya, which was very inspiring. One story he came back with, which I'll share with you guys if you don't mind, is that he asked Richard before he left, what do these kids need? What can we give them? We want to give them a gift. We want to give them something. Richard commented that shoes were up there on the list. They had flip-flops, tape, tattered pieces of clothing covering their feet. Walked everywhere. There was not very many cars. Everyone traveled by foot. So giving them shoes was a big deal. So we all got together. We were a small group, packed up a suitcase for them with shoes in it, and sent it over there. So the day came to give these kids the shoes. Had them all lined up, all of our orphans. Gave them their shoes. It was a day of great excitement. can tell the kids were very inspired. The very next day, one orphan named Pentha was seen without her shoes on. So my father, fearing the worst, Pentha, what happened to your shoes? Did somebody take your shoes? Did you forget them? Let's go get your shoes. These were a huge deal. And this small little 6-year-old, without a hesitation, said, I gave him Sabella. Forget it. Sabella was a handicapped orphan that did not make it the day that he was giving out the shoes. And this young 6-year-old did such a moving act, so inspiring, she didn't even fathom how big it was. So much so that by the time I went out there, I was introduced to Pentha approximately 9 times on the first day, because he wanted to make sure, this is Pentha then, meet Pentha. And I could tell it was very moving for him. So obviously this kicked off the project. He came back, we developed a plan. We wanted to help fatherless and orphan kids have a better opportunity at life. But more importantly, we wanted to give them the tools for success. So we adopted the old mantra, I'm sure most of you are familiar, if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for the rest of his life. And this is what we wanted to have as our foundation as moving forward. Also, one integral part is our organization. We wanted to be built upon inspiration, because this act by Pentha was beautiful. And that's what we always wanted to do. We always wanted to have the organization just built on the inspirational stories, the hope that these kids give, none of the sadness, none of the sorrow. We want to just focus on the good things, because there's so much coming from them. So this is kind of the general background, the setting of where we obviously started. This is right in front of the church. You can see they're having a good time. It was very, very inspiring for me to be a part of this. I went last year with my father to see all the growth during this time. It's very fun. So I want to move into the progress that we've made so far. There are a couple areas that we've made a lot of the progress. The first one will be structures. In addition to that would be the basic needs that have been developed, the schooling, and the awareness. First off, the structures that we built, we were very fortunate. In 2009, kids had no home, and we actually were able to do that. On the left was the dormitories. On the right was some of the school or the facilities, the kitchen, the cooking, the dining room. This actually became a reality. It now houses 27 orphans, but we can house up to 8. But unfortunately, at this time, we cannot support more than 27. And we want to change those 27's lives. We want to focus on them and give them everything we possibly can. One interesting story, when I was there, if you can see the dirt in the middle, something we obviously want to remove and have full concrete. It rained every other day. It's a jungle atmosphere, rain, sometimes it would rain the full day. So this area would turn into mud, just straight mud. And we would trap mud into the entire facility. It would be caked with this layer of brown mud. About 4:30 in the morning, people would start waking up. Come 5:15, 5:30, the kids would start scrubbing. Their ages were 4 to 12 years old. Would be scrubbing with water and rags from top to bottom of their facility. And they would joke around and have a great time. The man I asked, one of the people who spoke English, why are they just love their facility so much, was what I was told. That was pretty cool for me. Like